Hi there, this is Satyajit Ronan from Satyajit Ronan Films, and welcome to part 18 of my Satyajit Ray season. And today I'm just going to have a quick chat about 1981's film Deliverance, or The Deliverance, or Satyajit. Not to be confused with John Boorman's Deliverance. There's not a banjo in sight in this film. This was made for Indian television. It's only 45 minutes long. It appears in one of the artificial eye box sets of Ray. Unfortunately, the print, not surprisingly, is really quite bad, as a lot of Ray films are, sadly. It's in colour. It stars Om Puri, who you might not remember, you might not be aware of the name, but you certainly will recognise the face. He went on to become a major Bollywood star, and also he's been in lots of British and American films as well. He's had quite the career. So he stars as a tanner, a working class guy who wants to go to the Brahmin to get a prosperous date for his daughter's wedding. The Brahmin is a kind of class in Hinduism, who's a holy man who keeps track of sacred writings and is revered and is pretty high up in the caste system. Whereas Om Puri's character, Dukhi, is not. So he goes to the Brahmin to get this date. The Brahmin is a bit of an arse. You can tell that he's spoiled, he's fat. He spends most of the day eating and lying about, having constant naps, which isn't a bad way to live, but obviously he's supposed to be a little bit classy, if you'll pardon the pun. So he says, yeah, I'll get around to it, I'll come to your house eventually when I'm good and ready, but obviously I'm very busy, as you can see, which he's not. And he gets Dukhi to do some jobs around the house for him. He gets him to sweep a veranda with a very small broom. He gets him to transfer a lot of grain from one place to the other, and he asks him to chop a big tree log stump into small bits of wood with a very small axe, which is pretty much impossible. Dukhi has had fever, so he's weak to start with. He hasn't had much to eat. There's not a lot of food around. The gift that he takes the Brahmin is some grass for his livestock. That's all he can really afford or provide for the Brahmin, who the Brahmin and his wife pretty much just turn their nose up at him. He asks for some fire, for some tobacco to have a smoke, and the Brahmin's wife doesn't even want to give him that, because, you know, he's just turning up at the house asking for things. You know, that's well out of order for his caste. While he's chopping the wood, he meets this other guy who's far more philosophical about the situation, you know, saying, oh, you should go and ask for food, you should, you know. I'm going to go into spoilers, but not complete spoilers. Because again, if you can find this film, good luck to you. So Dukhi, because of his condition, he hasn't eaten, he's still got the fever. the Brahmin comes out and tells him, you're not chopping it properly, you need to put some effort into it. So he kind of gets a bit maniacal about it and goes hell for leather trying to chop this impossible tree stump. And he dies from a multitude of things, from exhaustion and the fever, and so he dies, which is very inconvenient for the Brahmin, who's all kind of fussed. Oh, what about the police? What if the police turn up? And his wife's like, well, you didn't do anything wrong. So the Brahmin very sheepishly goes to the kind of village where all the workers live and asks them to move the body because he's pretty much cluttering up the place. The same kind of people who are in the Brahmin's group or class are saying, you need to get rid of this body, it's very inconvenient, it's on the road to our well, and because it's lying there we can't really go there, and we need our water, we need to get to the well, so you really need to get these workers, these peasants, to move the body because it's just in the way. When his wife obviously hears that he's died, she's distraught. There's a beautiful scene where she collapses amongst cattle and puddles in the road, which is quite poetic but tragic. So Dukhie's death has now just become an inconvenience to the Brahmin. So I won't tell you what happens to the body, but it ends in a very poetic way that reminded me a lot of Bresson's O Hazard Balthazar. If you know that film, how that film ends, this kind of echoes in that. It ends kind of quite poetically and quite movingly. So, obviously it's a short film, it's only 45 minutes, it's a minor film. I wouldn't tell you to go rush out and try and see it, even though I would because it's Satyajit Ray. But it's a nice little film, and he says kind of more in 45 minutes than a lot of people would take in 90 minutes. It's a poetic little film. You could say, the Brahmin and his wife are obviously a waste of space, and it's fairly obvious that they are. There's not much nuance going on there. On Puri gives a lovely little performance when he realises that he'll never be able to defeat this log and chop it up into bits, and therefore his daughter won't get an auspicious date for her wedding. He breaks down. It is a tight little film. It's 45 minutes, but it only feels like half an hour. So there's not really much else to say about it as far as huge plot twists and anything. It is a simple film, but again, the through line in Ray's work is deceptively simple. It's still a good solid entry into the Ray canon, but obviously it's only 45 minutes. So thanks very much for watching episode 18. We are getting there slowly. Let me know if you've seen The Deliverance and what you thought of it, and hopefully you'll join me for episode 19 in my Satyajit Ray journey. This is Satyajit Ronan from Satyajit Ronan Films saying stay safe and farewell.